Because She Loves You was like that, because that was the day that the fans broke into the studio. I don't know whether you were going into that.
Well, please.
So on this particular instance, on She Loves You, we always think it was Mal Evans that used to let the fans know the Beatles were recording at EMI Studios in St John's Wood. So suddenly they've got a photo shoot which was outside of the echo chamber at the back of number 2 studio, and they had a photo shoot, but I think it was a Saturday, or I can't remember, I think it was Saturday. So there's a photo shoot happens, but suddenly over the period of 2 hours there's like 300 fans outside that studio, and there's like 2 policemen, one at each gate, and suddenly they burst through the gates. And they ran amok into the studio. They were hiding in cupboards. They were going to mastering rooms. They were going to other people's studios. There were 300 girls just running around completely wild. So we're in our number 2 studio on that particular day.
You hadn't even released She Loves You yet, right?
No, that's the day we're recording it.
Yeah, so how did they even know that this was going on?
No, because Mal Evans had told them that we're recording, right? Right, so...
That was the early days of Twitter.
Yeah, so, no, that's right, yeah. So anyway, so what happened was, so we're locked into number 2 studio, you know, and suddenly they broke into number 2. They were everywhere in the building. I mean, it was just chaos. All the janitors and everyone else were just trying to get these kids out of the cupboards and the rooms and throwing them out. And suddenly they broke into our studio. But the funny thing was, like 5 girls ran for Ringo. And so anyway, it was Neil Aspinall, I think, who calmed everyone down, and we started to record the record. And basically, if you listen to She Loves You, there's so much energy on that record, and all it is basically a live recording. The only thing that was overdubbed, I think, was some extra voices in the choruses. Mm-hmm. So that's why in She Loves You, you hear that energy level, because we had so much fun and everything that day, you know.
She Loves You was a brilliant song, one of the most vital songs that they had. Terrific atmosphere to it, and a great song to be performed live. It was the kind of song which not only aroused emotion when they first heard it, but also kept it going with the way that they actually sang and the way they shook their heads and so on. And the young girls would be moved enormously by it. Norman Smith was our engineer at the time, later known as Hurricane Smith in his own right as an artist. And when he saw the lyrics on the table at the beginning of the session, thought this is going to be an awful song, because it read, "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah," and so on. And he thought, well, what kind of a lyric is that? If you read some of the Beatle lyrics, they can be very funny. One of the interesting things about that, of course, was the way it ended. And it ended on a major sixth.
We brought it to George Martin. "Hey, George," and we did "She Loves You, yeah, 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 yeah," and the little sixth type cluster that we got at the end of it. George said, no. We said, why? He said, it's very corny, that end, a sixth. He said, it's like the old days, dun 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 dun, wah. He said, it's very corny. He said, I'd never do it. And we didn't understand.
And I thought this was pretty corny. It was almost like Glenn Miller's orchestration. And I told them so. I said, do you have to do that? It's a bit, I've heard that so many times in my life. They'd never heard it before. They thought it was pretty smart.
We just said, it's great, George. Such a great sound. He said, it's a sixth. We said, it doesn't matter. It's just great. And we just said, we've got to have it. We stuck out for that, corny or not. So George would give us these sort of parameters. He'd say, you mustn't double a third, or it's corny to end with a sixth. We said, we like it, man. It's bluesy.
And of course they stuck to their guns and kept it. And they were quite right, because it is a hallmark of it. At the time I thought it was pretty banal, but I thought the song was great.
But it was all very friendly scene. There was never really much rivalry between the groups. We were all kind of very pro each other.
And we were very close to the Stones, so I don't know how close the others were. And spent a lot of time with them, you know. And I admired them, you know. I dug them the first time I saw them.
Brian was very mindful of the boys, mop-top image and all the rest of it, and having one of them married was not part of his
Doesn't
picture.
quite fit,
So
does
you
it,
had to
really?
kind of
Yes, but
hide
in
in the
the
background.
But in those days, that was the case anyway, because I think with most managers, I mean, you didn't read like you do today in the press about families and children and background. In fact, it was derogatory to their image in those days.
Did you not play a gig at the Plaza Ballroom with the Beatles?
Yeah, I did actually. No, that was the first time I'd ever met and played with the Beatles. Was that, and I went sort of, you know, I mean, in the dressing room, they were big then.
Right.
And I remember the revolving stage. We were on first, and then about the end of our act, the stage turned around and pulled all the leads out of the speakers. Somebody forgot to take the leads out. So when the Beatles came on, there was no microphones working, but you couldn't hear them anyway because of the girls screaming.
Right.
You know, and John was pointing at his microphone and saying what's going on, that kind of thing. But, you know, we sat and talked a little bit.
I suppose, like any young band at the time, they were delighted to have the fan worship, but I think once they started to play and they'd jump on them, as it were, you know, so it must be pretty frightening. It must be like being in a game of rugby, or suddenly you walk out of a cinema and a crowd of girls jump on top of you or something practically.
You're just fantastic, Nina. Quite a unique model. You don't expect me to believe it, surely, after all the models you had. Well, that's just it. None of them being has to be pardoned, will you? Will I take that as a compliment? Believe me, I could pay you a higher one. You're so ugly. Oh, darling, I think you've had your hair dyed long enough now. How about going bald?
really good boy. What's this? What's this then? What's all the noise about? Come on. There we go. Oh, speak so low. Can't have that. You can't have that. Is your daddy gone? Where's your daddy gone? Hmm? Oh, he's got lovely new booties, haven't you? Got lovely new booties. Oh, come. There. Are you hungry, Pat? Are you hungry, love?
They were all done very quick, one take, and, as they say, warts and all. So we used to have to sing, all kinds of tunes, anything. We sang all the old Shirelles and the old Tamla Motown tunes and anything. So consequently, as we were doing loads of those BBC shows, then we'd try and put in, if we had a single or an album that we'd made, we'd, obviously do some of our own stuff, but a lot of the material was just stuff that we'd be singing around the clubs.
They were very fast. It was fine when we were doing, the repertoire we had and we knew. But then, some weeks would be real hard because we'd rehearse 2 or 3 songs in them, in the lunch break, and then we'd go and record them in the afternoon.
Did those Pop Go the Beatles was like, I think we'd got slightly famous by that time.
We used to do a show called Pop Go the Beatles.
Yeah.
Which was, it's a big break because we listened to a lot of BBC radio when we were kids, so it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we were really chuffed to get our own show. Only unfortunate thing is they've decided to call it Pop Go the Beatles, which we weren't that wild on.
Mm.
And then they decided we would have to sing Pop Go the Beatles. So it's like, once around the mulberry, seriously, Pop goes to Go the Beatles. And it's like, no, there goes our cred. Yeah, we've got the lot there. But it was good. They had a couple of good engineers here.
Bernie Andrews, and I was just saying, I heard some of the tracks. Somebody must have pirated them, Bernie, in America,
It was just amazing because, we'd be doing the BBC shows, we'd play Bradford, we'd be in EMI, we'd just be doing a TV show, Morecambe and Wise or something. I mean, we just never stopped.
It's about the nearest it could get to knowing what we sounded like before we became the clever Beatles.
We could play different stuff live from what was recorded and still have stuff left over for the next album.
You weren't thinking in terms of an album being an entity by itself. It was a collection of their songs, and I think 1 or 2 other people's songs as well.
Motown, we pushed like crazy. And we used to spend a lot of time sort of
going up to the room in EMI and saying, listen to this record from America. It is 10 times louder than our record. Now, what's going on? That was the beginning of Motown, sort of almost pre-Motown sound, although it was just beginning. It was when they started recording the bass a certain way.
Lots of early Motown. I mean, that's why some of my favourite songs were like Smokey and the Miracles, You Really Got a Hold on You. Well, you just weren't going to hear them on the BBC.
When George Martin said, well, what else have you got? We pulled out Till It Was You.
This one's a song which we first heard in the show called The Music Man. It's been recorded by Peggy Legg. Peggy Lee and that. Oh, yeah.
But already I think you've seen in some of their work that they have been getting across to the people who like a good tune as opposed to a beat. This is becoming more and more evident in their work.
In what way? You're down here.
Well, if you turn left, like that,
Which
you
way?
get onto a parallel road to this. And you'll
It's
go
called
back along
Parallel
there.
Road.
Oh, no, it's the side by side with this. But
Side by
it'll get you
side
back.
lane. Side by side lane. Side by side lane.
Oh, well, you'd get there if you knew the way in about quarter of an hour.
But we're new round here, so we only come for a couple of days, Holidoke. And we
I
just
think
asked
you
them
better
to
do that. Get on
onto the side by side road. I can't hit.
Again.
Turn left if we can.
Yes.
Then if we go back down the other end.
Don't go that
This way. No.
Go that way.
Well, this way back.
I'm sorry, I've got a hair appointment. I must go.
Oh, a present. Thank you very much for all your helpful kind.
I hide myself before the cherries, that is before Jordan. And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded ravens to feed thee there. So he went and did according unto the word of the Lord.
And were promptly thrown out. So we walked round to the back of the Royal Pier, and there's this huge wall with a big terrace on the top. So we right at the edge of the terrace, and the Beatles were out there, all sat there having coffees and just relaxing because it was a beautiful sunny day, and they were so friendly and so nice, and just came over and gave us their autographs and had a little chat. And they were just like four ordinary fellows and basking in the sun on a beautiful day in Weston.
And one scene in the film, you probably projected it. Anyway, there is the camera, the chauffeur who brought me down, he couldn't get them properly in because, the frame is, so he pulled the camera that way so that he got them in the frame upright. The boys are naturals. It's just one of those things. There is no other group they can get themselves as elephants or ants or whatever have you. There won't be a group like, I can assure you, in our lifetime or anybody else's lifetime. And we passed a sort of fairground type of, not even fairground, but those go-karting. And that's where the go-karting scenes thing, and they filmed that themselves. You can see Ringo on the floor. They've been very good, they really had a sense of framing and things. It's quite steady. It's only that certain thing they didn't know how to pan, they panned very fast and all that. Anyway, that was but it was a crazy thing.
Won't Be Long was my attempt at writing another single. It never quite made it there. It Won't Be Long was the one where the guy in the Times London wrote about the Aeolian cadences of the chords at the end, which started the whole intellectual bit about Beatles. But I still don't hear any Aeolian cadences. I don't know what they are. Sound like exotic birds.
Well, our guests this week in Pop Chat are the Beatles, John, Paul, George and Ringo. Let's start off with you, Ringo. Everybody knows the Beatles as a Liverpool group, but were you all actually born in Liverpool?
Yes, every one of us.
Are you keeping your homes in Liverpool, or do you plan on moving to London or anything like that?
I don't think any of us are moving. We must have a base in London, because we're there more than we're in Liverpool at the moment. But we're not moving our houses.
Sean, over to you for a minute. You do a lot of songwriting, I believe. Do you always work as a team?
Mainly, all the better songs that we haven't written, the ones that anybody wants to hear, both of us have written.
And do you write the words and music together, or does Mick write the words?
Sometimes half the words are written by me and he'll finish them off, or just we go along a word each practically.
And did you write your new record release?
She Loves You, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we wrote that 2 days before we recorded it.
Actually, we wrote it in a hotel room in Newcastle.
Well, this brings me to a question from one of your fans, Vicky Owen of Chadwell Heath. How did this distinctive hairstyle come about?
Well, I don't think any of us have been bothered with heavy haircuts.
and it was always long. Paul and John went to Paris and came back with it, something like this. And I went to the baths and came out with it like this.
Another fan, Sheila Holland of Ilford, was anxious to know how you managed to get any private life. I mean, if you take a girl out, how do you avoid being recognised? Paul?
I don't know, just sort of run.
Now, John, I know you'll have very little time for anything but music at the moment, but if you had spare time, what sort of hobbies and sports do you enjoy?
Well, none of us are very sporting. You know, the only sport we do bother with is swimming, and we don't count it as a sport. But hobbies are just writing songs.
Well, now we come to the request. Who's going to give me a request? How about you, Ringo?
I think we'd all like to hear Billy J's Bad to Me, please.
Okay, Bad to Me, it shall be. Thank you very much, the Beatles.
All my loving is Paul. I regret to say, I practice. Look, it's a damn good piece. Yeah. But I play a pretty mean guitar in back of that. Diddly, 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 diddly. That's me.
I remember All My Loving was a words thing. I just wrote it on a coach and I had those words and then I put a tune to it. But most of my stuff isn't like that. Most of my stuff, it's a tune looking for words.